I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build-up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player, so it's all good.
Sophie Cunningham's lawsuit against WNBA referees didn't just make headlines, it lit a fuse. Overnight, fans erupted. Her jersey sold out. Social media crowned her the league's enforcer. But this wasn't just about one foul or one teammate. It was the moment the silent frustration finally exploded. For years, fans watched stars like Caitlin Clark take cheap shots while refs stayed quiet. Now, someone's finally holding the whistleblowers accountable. This isn't just another WNBA controversy, it's a full-on reckoning. And if Sophie's bold move signals anything, it's this. The league has reached a point of no return.
Every time Caitlin Clark takes the court, her opponents act like they've been booked for a main event brawl. The WNBA is doing nothing about it. Opponents aren't playing ball. They're strategically ambushing her. They're trying to injure her. Opponents bring chaos. She brings composure. And what Sophie did last night is completely valid. The WNBA has to do something about this.
For weeks now, Caitlin Clark has been at the center of something deeply disturbing, not just for fans, but for anyone who believes in fairness in professional sports. Night after night, she takes the floor, only to be treated like a punching bag. Repeatedly fouled, scratched across the face, shoved violently, and even poked in the eye, all without meaningful protection from officials. What's worse, she's not just the victim. Somehow, she's the one getting punished. The footage tells the story clearly. Opposing players target Clark with a level of aggression that crosses the line from competitive to calculated. These aren't just hard fouls, they're deliberate attempts to rattle her, to sideline her, to send a message. Yet time and again, referees either ignore the behavior or, bafflingly, penalize Clark herself. In one game, she got poked in the eye and shoved to the floor, only to receive a technical foul for unsportsmanlike conduct. Let that sink in, she's assaulted on the court and punished for reacting. This pattern isn't new. It's been building all season, quietly tolerated by the league and dismissed by commentators who claim physicality is just part of the game. But there's physicality and then there's abuse. And fans are finally drawing the line. What makes this even more outrageous is the inconsistency. Players like Clark are supposed to get superstar treatment. Instead, she gets the opposite, as if she's being punished for her popularity, for the crowd she draws, for the spotlight she shines. In any other league, referees would step in. They'd hand out flagrants, they'd protect the face of the game. But in the WNBA, it seems Clark has to fend for herself until now. Because Sophie Cunningham saw what we all saw, and she decided to act.
How do you get poked in the eye, then get thrown to the ground, and then you receive a technical foul? And don't none of your teammates want to step up, fight, squabble, none of that. They just looking like, yo, it's been, we know that y'all been targeting Caitlin Clark now. Now, I'm even watching, I'm like, hold on, what? Like, how are y'all letting this happen? How are y'all not protecting this girl?
The breaking point came not with another foul, but with a response swift, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. During the explosive game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sunday, Sophie Cunningham did what the officials refused to do. She made it clear that enough was enough. After watching Caitlin Clark get jabbed, scratched, shoved, and blatantly disrespected all game long with no protection in sight, Sophie took matters into her own hands. The moment J.C. Sheldon went after Clark once again, Sophie delivered a tackle so precise and forceful, it sent shockwaves through the league. This wasn't reckless violence. It was a symbolic act of resistance. Cunningham didn't blindside anyone. She didn't throw punches or cause chaos. She delivered a clean, textbook flagrant, direct, undeniable, and deeply necessary. It was the kind of move that made a statement. If the officials won't protect our stars, then we will. In that single moment, Sophie transformed from just another tough player into something much bigger: the enforcer, the protector, the one who said what everyone was thinking without saying a word. The internet exploded. Fans who had been begging for anyone to stand up for Caitlin Clark hailed Sophie as a hero. Memes, slow-motion edits, Twitter threads, and TikToks celebrated her no-nonsense justice. She wasn't trending for a buzzer beater or a highlight dunk, she was trending for saying no more in the only language the league seemed to understand: action. It's not often you see the basketball world unite, but Sophie's stand triggered something bigger. Even casual fans could see the injustice, and now they had a face for the fight. Cunningham's tackle wasn't just revenge, it was a declaration, a demand for respect. A reminder that players can only take so much before someone finally breaks the silence and the cycle. What happened after Sophie Cunningham's tackle might be more shocking than the hit itself. In the hours that followed, social media didn't just react, it erupted. Within minutes, Sophie's name was trending across every major platform. By midnight, she wasn't just a role player or a tough veteran. She was the enforcer. A new kind of hero for a league desperate for accountability. TikTok edits exploded. Clips of her tackle were slowed down, soundtracked with war drums and fight music. Fans turned her into a meme, a gladiator, a knight, a bodyguard in a WNBA jersey. Her follower count skyrocketed, gaining hundreds of thousands on TikTok and Instagram in just one day. And the nickname stuck fast. The enforcer of the W. Not just a player anymore, Sophie became a symbol of something bigger, justice on the hardwood. Then came the jersey sales. And this is where it got real. Overnight, Sophie's jersey outsold everyone's, including Caitlin Clark's. Not because she hit a game winner, not because she dropped 40 points, but because she protected someone fans love, and they were desperate to show their support for that kind of courage. The truth is, fans weren't just rooting for Sophie, they were grateful. Grateful that someone finally did something. Grateful that the silence was broken. Grateful that Clark didn't have to walk through the fire alone anymore. Sophie didn't just stand up for Caitlin, stood up for what the fans had been screaming at their screens about all season long. In an era where social media drives player value, Cunningham's rise proved that protection and loyalty are more marketable than points per game. Fans are hungry for heart, for backbone, for someone willing to risk it all to draw a line in the sand. And Sophie? She crossed that line without hesitation and became a legend because of it.
Is a once-in-a-generation talent. She was massively successful in college, and that's transcended into the WNBA, where she's leaps and bounds above pretty much most every player there. You're allowing her to get beaten up on the regular during games, flagrant fouls, people trying to take her eye out. That's happened a couple different times last year and this year. And you're not protecting.
No one saw it coming, but maybe everyone should have. Just days after her viral tackle defending Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham did the unthinkable. She filed a lawsuit against the WNBA referees. The charges? Negligence and discrimination. And with that bold legal strike, Sophie didn't just shake up the league, she declared war on the system itself. Her claim was simple but powerful, that referees had consistently failed to protect Caitlin Clark from escalating physical abuse, even as it reached dangerous levels. Slaps, scratches, blindside hits, eye gouges ignored. Meanwhile, Clark was the one picking up technical fouls for daring to react. Sophie's lawsuit argued that this wasn't just bad officiating. It was a systemic failure culture of selective enforcement, letting star players like Clark become targets. But Sophie didn't stop at calling out inaction. She took it a step further, stating that bias, both conscious and unconscious, played a role in the league's failure to protect its biggest star. She demanded accountability not just for Clark, but for every player who'd ever been left to fend for themselves while officials looked away. The reaction? A bombshell. Other players began speaking up. Former teammates, rivals, even retired WNBA legends came forward to share stories of their own times when they felt invisible, unprotected, or outright targeted by inconsistent officiating. Analysts called Sophie's move unprecedented. Sports law experts said it could redefine the relationship between athletes and league officials forever. Because if refs can be sued for what they don't do, the entire landscape of accountability changes. And behind it all, the fans. They didn't just back Sophie, they rallied. Hashtags exploded. Number sue the whistle and number protect the players dominated the conversation. Even people outside the WNBA world began paying attention. In one move, Sophie flipped the power dynamic. No longer were refs untouchable, no longer was silence acceptable. The lawsuit wasn't just a personal stand, it was a historic statement. And now, the entire league is watching with nowhere left to hide. Caitlin Clark isn't just a rookie, she's a walking economy. Since her arrival in the WNBA, attendance numbers have shattered records. Arena sellouts, standing room only crowds, merchandise flying off the shelves everywhere she goes. The league cashes in. In just her first month, Clark helped deliver some of the highest viewership ratings in league history, with games featuring her drawing millions of viewers on national broadcasts. And yet, despite being the financial engine of the league's current growth, she receives none of the protection typically afforded to stars of her magnitude. Let's look at the numbers. The Indiana Fever saw a nearly 200% spike in home game attendance. Ticket resale prices doubled, even tripled when Clark was on the court. Sponsorship deals surged. Jerseys bearing her name quickly outsold every other player's. And on the road, opposing teams routinely moved games to larger venues just to accommodate the Caitlin Clark effect. She is, by every economic metric, the WNBA's most valuable asset. And yet, what does she get for it? Not star treatment, not league safeguarding. Instead, Clark has become the most targeted player on the floor, hit, shoved, scratched, and taunted, with referees offering little more than a shrug. Meanwhile, other stars in other leagues, whether it's LeBron in the NBA or Messi in the MLC, are fiercely protected by officiating crews, understanding their value to the product as a whole. But not Clark. Not in the WNBA. That's the disconnect. The numbers say she's essential. The crowd say she's the draw. The cameras follow her every move. Yet the league treats her like just another body on the court tone that can be hit, hacked, and harassed with impunity. Why? Some say it's jealousy, others say it's politics. But whatever the reason, the math doesn't lie. Caitlin Clark is not just a rising talent, she's a financial cornerstone. And ignoring her value isn't just unfair, it's bad business. Because when your biggest moneymaker isn't safe, the entire structure you're building is at risk of collapsing.
Caitlin Clark is non-disrespectable. That's not even a word, but I'm going to just use it for the point of my video. You cannot disrespect the nucleus of women's basketball and act like it's not going to be a problem, man. Oh, Caitlin Clark could do this, but other people can't. You goddamn right. Because she's the center of women's basketball. We've said this a million times.
The WNBA is facing more than just bad headlines. It's staring down a full-blown integrity crisis. And it's not just because Caitlin Clark keeps getting hacked with no whistle. Whispers are growing louder around the league, and now they're starting to echo. Referee corruption, bias, and incompetence may be part of a much bigger problem. Just weeks before Sophie Cunningham's lawsuit hit the news, reports began surfacing about questionable officiating patterns. Missed calls, inconsistent enforcement, and technicals handed out like candy fans began wondering aloud if certain refs were targeting specific players. Then came the jokes that didn't feel like jokes anymore. Clips went viral of WNBA officials laughing with coaches mid-game, dismissing player complaints with smug grins, and flat-out ignoring obvious fouls caught on national television. Even the league couldn't hide from it. In a post-game statement following one of the most controversial non-calls involving Clark, the WNBA admitted something chilling. "We lost control of the game." That sentence hit harder than any foul. Because once the league admits it has lost control, it also admits its credibility is slipping. Then there's the referee development program, an inside joke among fans and even players. Where do they find these refs? Has become a common refrain online. Rookie referees being thrown into high-stakes matchups with no oversight. Veteran refs making baffling decisions and escaping accountability. One commentator sarcastically said during a broadcast, "I'd rather have a coin flip call these games at least it'd be consistent." But the real scandal is what's bubbling underneath. Rumors of bribery and preferential treatment. Claims that some refs have relationships with players, coaches, even agents. If any of that is proven true, the damage to the league could be catastrophic. The WNBA has a visibility problem, but more dangerously, it has a trust problem. Fans will forgive missed shots. They won't forgive rigged outcomes. And with every uncalled foul, every unjust tech, and every silence after chaos, the WNBA digs itself deeper. Not just into controversy, but into crisis. The WNBA thought it could ride the wave of Caitlin Clark's popularity without consequence. But when Sophie Cunningham stood up and sued, the fans stood with her. And now, the revolt is fully underway. It started with frustration, then disbelief. Now, it's action. Thousands of fans flooded social media, rallying behind Cunningham's lawsuit like it was a battle cry. Within hours, hashtags like #ProtectCaitlin, #RefReformWNBA, and #Sophie was right trended across X, TikTok, and Instagram. A Change.org petition demanding a full investigation into WNBA officiating crossed 250,000 signatures in just 3 days. This wasn't just noise, it was a reckoning. Fans began combing through old game footage, compiling highlight reels of missed calls, biased technicals, and dangerously inconsistent officiating. Dozens of fan-made videos showed Clark being shoved, scratched, and shoved again only for refs to either ignore it or penalize her. The message was clear. We see what's happening, and we're done staying silent. But it wasn't just digital rage. Season ticket holders began emailing teams directly, demanding changes or threatening to cancel. Local fan clubs announced boycotts. Some even organized live protests outside, arenas complete with signs reading, "Where's the whistle?" And Caitlin deserves protection too. For the first time in league history, it wasn't the WNBA front office dictating the narrative, it was the fans. And the rallying symbol? Sophie Cunningham. Once known as a gritty role player, Sophie became a folk hero almost overnight. Not because she was perfect, but because she did what the league wouldn't. She fought back. Her lawsuit transformed a personal moment of outrage into a movement for accountability. She became the face of fan frustration, and the fans responded in kind. They're not just asking anymore, they're demanding fair officiating, transparency, and action. And if the WNBA doesn't deliver, they've made it crystal clear. They'll walk. Sophie Cunningham's lawsuit lit a fire the WNBA can't ignore. Fans are louder than ever, demanding change, accountability, and protection for the league's biggest star. From viral hashtags to threatened boycotts, the message is clear. The silence is over. But the question now is, what if the league doesn't listen? What happens if the referees stay unchecked and nothing truly changes? The WNBA is standing on the edge of a credibility cliff. And Caitlin Clark? If the league won't protect her now, how long before she decides it's not worth staying? Would you blame her if she walked away?